Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be trying out and comparing 4 of the new and also leading AI video generation platforms, including Runway ML, Pika Labs, Decohere and Leonardo.ai, which has just entered the market with their new motion ability. So I'm going to use various images to try and test out landscapes, characters, different art styles, and just try out the platforms, show off what they can and can't do. And at the end, I'll try and weigh up the pros and cons of the different platforms and try and make a judgment on which ones I think are best, depending on the scene, any characters that you're trying to bring to life, as well as the ease of use and overall quality of output. All right, here we go. So first of all, I'm going to try out Decoherence, which is now called Decohere, and you can find it at decohere.ai. As well as still offering their original Flickr model, which generated outputs similar to Kyber, they also have their newer Fluid model, which generates clips which are more fluid, and you could choose the aspect ratio and make use of their interactive timeline, generate clips, choose different artwork styles. They also have their Turbo model, which makes use of stable video, which I wanted to explore today. They've got a cool and fairly unique feature with their near instant image generation with their Turbo model, where you can just type in a text prompt, generate images, and then press a button to convert that into a video file. Very, very cool. But for today's video, I'm going to be using some pre-prepared images so we can compare like for like across the different video platforms. So the first image I'm going to try out is this anime style Ninja Warrior, which has got a slightly painty texture to it. And this image was generated using MidJourney, and I'm not sure if it's still the case, but I know in the past Decoherence did work better if you used an image generated on their platform or one generated using Stable Diffusion. But with that image uploaded, and I'm going to leave the motion setting in the middle for now and just press Generate Video. I'm also going to turn the motion up to around 80-90% and press Generate Video again. So we've got another one for comparison, and I'll go through and generate the other images as well and quickly discuss the output. And as a final test for Decohere.ai, I've actually generated an image using their text prompt approach, which is a lot of fun, to arrive at this Princess Ninja Warrior again with a flaming sword, and I'm going to try turning this into a video to see if we get better output with an image generated on their platform rather than using a MidJourney image. Alright, so I've got various video generations completed on Decoherence, and some of them are looking really cool, others not so much. Let's quickly take a look. One of the first things I noticed is the video files that you can download are actually quite low resolution at 1024 by 576, and there doesn't appear to be a way to change that at the moment as it's still early days with stable video. But you could upscale those videos to 4K using something like Topaz Video AI. The first clip I ran with 50% motion didn't have much going on in the clip at all, and then the second one had some nice petals or flames falling in the scene, but some slightly odd head motion. It handled the landscape shot pretty well, despite the morphing in the characters in the foreground. Otherwise quite impressive, and the sea was really nice and rich in that pirate ship scene. And there's some consistency to the character design in the mouse clip before the camera pans off to the left and causes some distortion. The motion on the polar bear is quite impressive before getting slightly confused, and the snow seems to be drifting upwards, but not bad. And then the clip with the image that was actually generated on Decohere doesn't have much motion bar the camera pan, and there's some loss of quality to the image. Okay, so whilst I don't think the output from Decohere using stable video is looking great yet, it is a really easy way to be able to jump in and make use of stable video for yourself to see if you can get some usable results. And you can also make use of some of those free generations before deciding to pay a monthly or annual fee to have multiple generations, get rid of a watermark, and speed up the generations as well. And just from these quick tests, I think it could work very nicely for things like landscapes and potentially ocean scenes, something slightly more abstract, perhaps not character animation just yet. Okay, on to the next one. This time I'm going to try out Pika via their new Pika.art website, and this is Pika version 1.0 that had lots of build up towards the end of 2023 when they released their promo which showed what it was going to be capable of, and after some initial testing I was concerned that it wasn't going to live up to the hype, but I've now wrapped my head around it a bit more and I'm getting some really decent results. That said, there's still lots of room for improvement, as there are multiple times where Pika and Runway ML will struggle to produce usable content despite having text prompts and other forms of guidance. But it's getting closer, and the Pika UI does make it easier to produce multiple generations to try to arrive at something you're happy with. Overall, I think the UI on the website is fantastic, and it allows you to have some organization over your generations and enable you to create multiple generations, do in-painting, expand canvas, use negative text prompts and things like that to help guide the output and just give you a better chance of creating the sort of content you're looking to produce. So I'm going to go through the process of using Pika. Here we go. If you move down to the bottom of the UI where it says describe your story, you can click and add an image or a video file. I'm going to choose our polar bear image, give it a positive text prompt. Polar bear walking to the left in New York street in the snow falling. You could then press the button to activate that and see how it turns out, or you can go down to the bottom right here where it says parameters and add some negative prompts, and they've got some examples here: ugly, bad and terrible. So I'm going to put ugly, bad, terrible, too many legs, odd legs. And if you want to reuse a seed number from a generation you liked in the past, you could use that here, and you can vary how much the positive and negative text impacts the video output. I'm going to leave this in the middle at 15. You can then open up the motion control tab and give some camera guidance. So I'm going to have the camera pan to the left and slightly zoom out. And you can set the strength of motion here, which affects how much animation there is in the clip. And I'm going to leave that at 1. In the video options tab, you can set the frame rate. You could go down to something like 12 frames per second. I'm going to leave this at 24 and press generate. Whilst that's generating, you could go up and press the retry tab here and press that a couple of times. And at the moment, Pika is still free to use, so there's no massive concern with making multiple generations. As it's currently free, all generations do come with this Pika watermark over the clip. And within less than a minute, we've got our 3 generations completed. And that's really very quick and very impressive. And you can just click on which one you want to preview and then roll the mouse up, and the video will play as soon as you roll over it. And we've got some nice movement here. The scene's looking good, the camera movement's nice, the snow looks good, but there are some multiple leg instances here as it's got a little bit confused. Let's try out the next one. Again, some really cool fast movement which we hadn't seen much in previous video generation platforms, but there is some weird movement. Again, the legs get slightly confused at times, and it seems to be moving behind this sign here, this banner. But the movement's really, really lush, and there's a car driving away in the background that seems to be skidding into the snow. And then lastly, we've got this one where the leg movement is much cleaner. And the camera movement's looking good. We've got someone walking across the scene. Let's make this bigger. So really nice movement. Car drives away and disappears a bit abruptly. But very, very cool. So we could go from here and just press upscale. You could add an additional 4 seconds. You could press reprompt and tweak some of those settings, or you could press retry again to generate some more generations based on the settings we've already provided. Or we can press edit. So let's try out edit. And then moving back down to the bottom of the UI, we've now got a modify region or an expand canvas option. So we could press modify region, and it opens up this window where you could highlight the polar bear and change it into something else. I'm going to try adding a brown leather saddle to the top of our polar bear. So I'm just going to highlight that area, change our text prompt to brown leather saddle, and press generate. And again, you could do multiple generations. Whilst it works on that, I'm going to quickly show off the expand canvas option as well. So again, pressing edit, press expand canvas, and we have our clip which plays on a loop, and we can choose what aspect ratio we want to change our clip into. I'm actually going to keep it at 16:9, scale it down, and you can choose where you want this clip to be positioned and press generate. The generations from modify region are completed, and we've got 3 outputs. This one didn't actually add a saddle. It has added some slight brown tint to the top of the bear. This one did even less, and the first generation did actually add a brown saddle. The art style is quite different to the overall video, but it's still very, very impressive, and it moves with the lighting and obviously tracks with the bear perfectly. So there's loads of potential here, and you can also upload your own video files, real life video files, and add scenes using this technique as well. And just for fun, I did some generations where I added some extra big ears to the polar bear as well, and now he looks even cuter. We can check out the expand canvas results, and it's done a really nice job, and I think this is a stellar feature that Pika has implemented before any other AI video generation platforms have, and it seamlessly extended the scene using the same sort of art style, creating more content whilst keeping that original clip. We've got our various generations. I'm not sure what this big blob here is, like a big snow-covered rocky caterpillar, and then this one here. And you could use the text prompt to dictate what you'd like to see in this sort of space as you expand the canvas. And I think this is a really useful feature, as you could create the close-ups of scenes and then cut to wide shots and then piece them together in an edit to help with proper storytelling and animation. I've gone through and produced a few more generations. This landscape one, the camera move works really well. I did find the camera movements weren't as consistent as the likes of Runway ML, but when it works really nicely. Again, this landscape works well. There is some movement to the building, but it does look really rather epic. So very impressive. After quite a few generations of the mice, it achieved this clip, and there's a few inconsistencies, but it's getting there, so there's potential for more 2D animation in the future. It did a fantastic job with our ninja warrior with some really cool lighting in the eyes and some subtle hair movement. And then the sea scene, again, worked really nicely. And I did lots of generations of this and most of them turned out beautifully. And I got some really nice results with expand canvas here as well. So I think it's clear that Pika is already doing a fantastic job. The new UI works really well, being able to easily create multiple generations. The power of negative prompts works really well for refining the output. And then the ability to edit elements in your image and expand the canvas all enables creatives to produce content closer to what it is they envision. So really, really good, and I can't wait to see how this improves over the coming months and rest of the year. One really powerful feature which I haven't touched on is the fact that you can bring in a video clip and then use Pika to stylize that video clip. So if you're struggling to get the sort of animation you want from an image and a text prompt, you could find a reference video or something you've created manually or from another website or a stock video. Bring that into Pika, use a text prompt to dictate the kind of style or animation or video you're looking to produce, and do multiple generations again. And this is really, really powerful combined with the other tools as well. Right, on to the next one. Now I'm going to explore Runway ML, which for a long time has been the poster child of AI video and animation generation, and only more recently has it seen increased competition from the likes of Pika Labs, and then more recently Stable Video from Stable Diffusion, which is being utilized in Decoherence and also in Leonardo.ai. Runway has various AI tools where you can create images, you can remove backgrounds, do motion tracking. They recently launched their text-to-speech model, which is quick and easy to use.
AI video done inside of Runway ML.
They then have two video generation models. They've got Gen 1, which is an older one. You could use a video source and apply some styles to it. And the output was so-so, and the final resolution was always a little bit lacking. And then they've been releasing various updates since rolling out Gen 2, which we're going to be using today. I've actually covered Runway ML a number of times in recent YouTube videos, including the new ambient motion control, the motion brush, and showed it in action for a behind-the-scenes video of a Christmas short I created. I'll include a link to all of these in the video description below. Okay, so into Gen 2, where you can, if you want to, use a text prompt and generate an image and get a free preview and then use that as the source for the video that you then generate. Or you can upload an image and use that, or you can have an image plus a description, and that's what we're going to use today. So I'm going to go ahead and upload one of our images. And this time I'm going to use the pirate ship image with the crashing waves, clouds, and the rocks. So unlike Pika Labs, we don't have the ability to add a negative text prompt, but we can add our positive text prompt. So I'm just going to add pirate ship rocking in giant waves that crash on rocks as clouds blow past. Then if you go to the settings, you could select a particular seed number if there's one you like from a previous generation. You can turn on interpolation, upscaling, and remove watermark, which are all on by default. You can open up a general motion tab and set the overall speed of motion in the scene, and this surprisingly can impact the amount of motion you get in your video generations, and somewhere between 3 to 8 generally works pretty well depending on your scenario. Alternatively, you can set your camera motion, very similar to Pika Labs, although you can set the amount of motion for each movement individually, plus it includes horizontal movement. So if you shift the camera to the left but then pan to the right, you can get some 3D movement rotating around the main subject of your image. So I'm going to move to the left, pan to the right, and slightly zoom out, press save. And when you do this, it removes that general motion setting you previously set, but if you want to, you can go back and reset and remove the camera motion. Next, we have a seriously good feature from Runway ML in the form of Motion Brush, which enables you to paint into your scene using their brush. And you can be fairly crude with it and paint the areas that you want to be animated. And whilst other areas of the scene may still become animated, this just gives you some extra control to try and tell the AI model what it is you're after. And there's an eraser to tidy some edges up. And with that done, you can then apply different movement to the selected area. So we could say we want some horizontal movement to the left, some vertical movement, proximity, moving things further away or closer to the camera, then ambient motion or ambient noise, which you can apply to things like waves, flames, dust, general elements in an environment to create some repeated motion where you don't necessarily want it to move anywhere, particularly in the scene. So we've got a little bit of horizontal movement to the left, some vertical movement, coming slightly towards the camera and added quite a bit of ambient motion. I'm going to press save and generate. And here's the result of that video generation. It looks pretty epic. We've got that camera movement pulling out, slightly turning to the left, and those waves are building up and coming closer towards the camera. And there's some subtle motion and depth to those clouds, and a little bit of fluttering on the sails. Once you've generated a 4-second clip, you can then extend it a further 4 seconds, and you can do this 4 times to create a circa 16-second long clip. Now, with all of these AI platforms, you can get different results each time you generate, so I'd recommend doing multiple generations regardless of which platform you're working with, so you can work out what is and isn't working and get the best shot for your project. I'm going to quickly go through and produce those other video generations, and then we can take a look. Now, as much as I'm a fan of Runway ML and the quality generations, it does typically have a slight slow-mo feel to it, even if you ramp up the motion settings. So whilst you can increase the speed of camera movements, the motion in a scene often feels slow-mo, or if you ramp it up loads, it just gets very, very distorted. And that's something that hopefully we'll see improved in the near future. Out of all the video generation platforms I'm trialing today, I think Runway ML excels with landscapes and more cinematic shots, so it does really well with this countryside shot, with some nice consistent camera movement, and it maintains the detail better than the others. And then this ninja shot, it has some nice subtle motion to the character, and the camera movements, again, nice and smooth. And in this second version, it's added some cool stylized glows as well, which work well. It does struggle with characters, particularly 2D characters, and just trying to maintain character consistency, whether it's humans or more abstract things like this dinosaur. And for the polar bear, it looks like it's doing quite well, but it is very slow motion, and this was the best of the bunch. So I think character animation at the moment, it's going to struggle with. But in terms of bringing landscapes to life, I think it's the current leader. The real winning feature for Runway ML is that motion brush, which works really well at giving you a bit of extra control over the generations, deciding where you want that motion, and it can work well with more visual effects shots, as well as dust, fire, water, hair, things like that. So as a quick recap, I do think Runway ML is still very, very impressive. That fantastic set of camera controls and the motion brush make it a serious contender to maintain that top spot, though admittedly I do think Pika Labs, with the negative prompting and the various inpainting and expanding canvas and the quality of its own generations, is going to potentially take that title soon as well, once they enable a paid tier where you can remove that Pika watermark. But the landscapes in Runway ML I do think are better, and I do think the shots typically are more cinematic, though Pika Labs and Runway ML, it's going to be a competition for some time to come, and there's going to be things from MidJourney and OpenAI no doubt coming in the future as well, which might tackle that top spot. But yeah, I'm still a big fan of Runway ML, and will no doubt use it again for future videos. Right, onto the final platform where I'm going to check out the new Leonardo.ai and their own stable diffusion powered motion feature. Here we go. So in Leonardo.ai, they have their image generation, real-time canvas editor where you can edit an image, and their new motion tool. I just want to quickly show off their real-time canvas. So similar to the instant image generation using decoherence, in Leonardo.ai you can use real-time canvas to paint an image as well as combine it with text prompts and get live output. So if I quickly grab hold of my paintbrush, and you can choose one of these presets, and you can decrease or increase the creativity. And again, you could change to something like cinematic and generate images like this. So an awful lot of fun, and I just wanted to quickly show this just in case you want to log into Leonardo.ai and give it a try. And back to the main video. Okay, so to be able to make use of the new motion tool in Leonardo, you first need to have an image to work with. So first of all, go to image generation, and you can use Leonardo.ai to create your image, and there's various settings, and it's a very, very capable AI image generation tool that can compete pretty well with the likes of DALL-E 3 and MidJourney. And for the purposes of this video, I want to be working with the same images as I've used before, and there's no direct way to upload an image and use it, but there is an easy workaround. So if you go to Image Guidance, choose Upload Image and select one of your images. To mix things up, I'm going to use this alternative dinosaur image just for now. Once uploaded, you can up the guidance strength to 0.9, which is the max. Choose how many images you want to generate. We only want one of these. Choose your aspect ratio. In my instance, this is 16:9, so I'm changing the drop down to 16:9, turning on the padlock and maximizing the size. And for the text prompt, just put in a space and press generate. You can then go to your personal feed or generation history and check out the images you've uploaded. And I've already gone through and uploaded all the images for our different generations. If you click on one of your uploaded images, it brings up this menu, and you can then click image to motion. From here, you can dictate the amount of strength being applied to the motion, very similar to how Decoherence or Decohere.ai works, and you can choose with a paid account whether you want to have a private or public generation. I'm going to set the motion to 7 and press generate. You can press view generation or press close. You can then check out the result in your generation history or your personal feed. So here I am in the generation history, and the first video result, which I'd accidentally set the aspect ratio to 4:3 rather than 16:9. But with the motion set to 7, we're getting some lovely camera movement, and we are getting an animated dinosaur, although we are losing quite a lot of the detail. But still impressive nonetheless. I did another one, also at 4:3 with the motion set to 3. And again, we're getting some lovely camera movement and then no animation on the dinosaur, but a very, very nice clip. And then I did another one with a different aspect ratio. And again, the dinosaur's animated, and this had the motion set to 6. But we are, again, losing some fidelity, some accuracy to that dinosaur. All the same, very, very impressive. Okay, so I'm going to run through now and do the other image generations so we can compare the results. Now with the outputs, no matter how many times I generated this clip of the countryside, it refused to animate the camera and just kept animating the clouds with varying intensity depending on the motion. However, with the sci-fi shot, it had this lovely smooth camera motion and looks really, really good on the landscape side. There is some distortion on the characters, but I've seen that across all 4 of the generation platforms, so pretty decent job here. And I think it actually does the best job at maintaining the look and detail of the overall imagery. The polar bear shot, it had a lot of fails, and this was the best of a bad bunch. You can see it's trying, and there's going to be potential, and it will no doubt improve in the future. Bar the morphing on the polar bear, the rest of the scene looks pretty good in terms of depth. There isn't any animation on that car, but otherwise you can see it's heading in the right direction. With the mice, similar to Decoherence, there is consistency, but it's just some basic motion, but it is detecting the difference between the mice, as you can see with the movement in the ears. The pirate ship at sea shot, whilst impressive, is not rivaling the likes of Pika Labs and Runway ML, and in this other version the boat shifts off to the right at speed after I racked up the motion to I think 9. Before starting this video, it also generated this using Leonardo, and I think the result was really very, very good, so it can produce some really compelling visuals. This one, it did a great job at panning the camera around, and it seems to depict the differences between those 2 cars, and the overall depth looks pretty great. And I did that dinosaur shot again with the motion set to 5, and it just looks really, really cool, and I like this, and it's going to be great when we can extend the clips and have more control, similar to those that we see with Pika Labs and with Runway ML. Alright, so I think it's safe to say that the new video generation built into Leonardo.ai has loads and loads of promise, and the fact that it's built on stable video means yes, they are slightly limited in what they can do at the moment, but as Stable Diffusion release future updates for that and enable us to produce longer content, give more direction to the output, and potentially do things like in-painting and maybe use control nets in the future, I think it will become a real contender, and we'll see it competing with Pika Labs and Runway ML more and more. And I think the same will apply to Decohere, who's also using stable video and have that amazing video editor built into their platform. So very, very exciting. Now, before I wrap with a short conclusion for this video, I wanted to quickly show how you can use Topaz Video AI to upscale any of your AI video generations, regardless of which platform you're using. Now, this is a paid tool. It's not cheap, but it is a one-time investment, and it runs locally on your machine, and it uses AI to upscale images from very low resolution all the way up to 8K. So I've got that cool dinosaur clip here from Leonardo.ai. We can go up to object resolution, choose 4K. You could add stabilization and remove any jittery motions. Sometimes you get that in things like Runway ML and Pika. And you can try out different video types and try out different AI models to see how they affect the upscaling, but Proteus does a pretty decent job and is nice and quick. And press export. It will use AI to interpret what those extra pixels need to look like, and it does a pretty fantastic job. Now, this is not a cheap bit of software, but it is very, very cool, and if you are a video professional and perhaps you're doing lots of AI video generations or upscaling old content, it's really, really handy, and I'll include a link in the video description below, and if you go via that link and do purchase the software, I do get a small kickback, which helps me do videos like this. Okay, so to wrap this lengthy video up, I think it's clear that Runway ML and Pika Labs are neck and neck for who can provide the best AI video generation platform at the moment. We've got the amazing tools from Runway ML in the form of the motion brush and those superb camera controls, and then Pika Labs has got some pretty good camera controls, that negative prompting which helps guidance a lot, and then there's in-painting and that expand canvas and a really, really cracking UI design. So for me, I think Pika Labs slightly edges it, but I do prefer the cinematic and landscape output from Runway ML a lot of the time. That said, Pika Labs is still a free tool and you still have to have that watermark embedded into your footage. Please let me know in the comments which one of these platforms you think is best for your specific area of animation, or perhaps you're using something completely different. Plus, is there a killer feature you think one of these companies should be implementing? Personally, I'm hoping we get to use negative prompts in the future of Runway ML, plus potentially the ability to apply multiple motion brush passes to a clip. So please let me know what you think in the comments below. All that said, Stable Video's just come on the scene and it's already producing some pretty decent results, and with companies like Decohere and Leonardo.ai adopting it. Plus, you could play with Stable Video today or use animated diff using Comfy UI, build up a complex workflow or borrow one from the internet, and generate your own animations locally or in the cloud, which is a little bit more complex than I wanted to cover for this video, but it's another real contender for producing quality animated video content. Plus, who knows what's going to come from the likes of MidJourney, OpenAI, Google, Meta, and things like that. If you've stuck with me this long, thank you very much. Hopefully you found it useful looking at the different tools and comparing it and trying to find some insight where possible. If interested, head over to aianimation.com where you can register for free as an AI animation creative, build a portfolio, and potentially win work in the future, and that's all free to do. And lastly, if you haven't already, please press like. If you're interested in videos like this, press subscribe, and please leave a comment. All right, I'm John Draper. Thanks very much for watching. Have an awesome day. Cheers.